You're very welcome back. Now, Christmas is a time of year when domestic charities are often at their busiest and are especially glad of the help of volunteers.
Here with advice on how best to go about getting in touch with these organisations and lending a hand is Nina Arwitz, Chief Executive of Volunteer Ireland. Good morning, Nina. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Some very interesting statistics involving Irish people and volunteering, and quite surprising, really, when you consider the amount of people out there who love to volunteer.
Yeah, Ireland is very good at volunteering. So about 1 million people in Ireland volunteer each year. That's about 28% of people over 15. We're #1 in Europe for volunteering. So we're very good at volunteering as a nation.
But of course, we always need an extra hand and for more and more people to volunteer. What are the benefits for the volunteers themselves?
Oh, there are huge benefits. I could spend all morning talking about them. Most people say that the biggest thing they get out of it and the reason they volunteer is that they want to give to their community. But obviously there are benefits in terms of employment, there have been benefits in terms of health. So for example, 55% of 1,000 volunteers we surveyed said that they had an improved mental health as a result of volunteering. And 45% said they had an increased feeling of physical health as a result of volunteering. There's also an increased sense of belonging to community. So 66% of people felt that they felt more part of the community. So for example, for recent arrivals to the country, it's a really great way to get involved, get to know people, learn a language. And there's also self-esteem. So 65% of those surveyed volunteers said that they felt an increased sense of confidence from volunteering.
Yeah.
So the list goes on. And for everyone, it's different. Everyone has different motivations for volunteering.
I think it presents a whole new social network as well, doesn't it, of friends and like-minded individuals?
Definitely. That comes in at about third in terms of motivations, is meeting new people and making friends. That's a huge part of it. And especially in this time of year at Christmas, if you're feeling lonely, it's a great way to meet other people and to not be alone.
So it might be late to volunteer for lots of our well-known charities at this stage, particularly for Christmas. But generally, we should be thinking about volunteering across the year and not just at Christmas time, shouldn't we?
That's right, yeah. So most organisations, like I said, because Ireland's so good at volunteering, most organisations already have their volunteering sorted for Christmas. They would have started recruiting already in September, October. But volunteering is a little bit like puppies. It's not just for Christmas. So if you want to volunteer and you don't find a role over Christmas because it's a bit late, maybe think about why it is you want to volunteer. And if it's not just about a Christmas reason, it'd be great to volunteer throughout the rest of the year, because most organisations, when they need volunteers, is, you know, a rainy Tuesday evening in February, as much as anything.
You have some tips for us, which we're going to show up now on our screen. I suppose keeping in mind what your skill set is quite important, and what you can give to a particular organisation.
Exactly, yeah, and everyone has a skill, everyone has something to offer. A lot of us maybe don't recognise it, but to think about what it is you have and what you can do is a really good way of starting to decide what kind of volunteering you want to do. And do most organisations need a bit of training? There's a bit of training involved. Yeah, so definitely when you're thinking about volunteering, you want to think about being early to look for an opportunity, especially for Christmas. You want to start looking in around September. But in general as well, you need to be willing to give up a bit of time for training, because a lot of organisations would want to train you. You want to think about your skills. You also need to think about how much time you can give and not overcommitting for the sake of yourself and the organisation.
And there's a couple of charities here that you've collated everything and all the opportunities, and they're all on your website, aren't they? All year round.
Yes.
But we've picked out a few. An Extra Plate in Donegal. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, it's a lovely initiative. It's a couple who took this initiative themselves to ask people if they might have an extra plate of dinner, which most of us do on Christmas Day, and if they'd like to donate it to somebody who needs it. So they're still looking for volunteers, so this is one that you can still apply for. If you've got an extra plate for dinner, you can give it to somebody who needs it. And they're also looking for volunteers to be drivers to take that food from one door to the other door.
So simple, isn't it? But
so simple and so lovely, exactly.
Yeah, like all of the good ideas, I suppose. The Christmas Day Splash goes on around the country, but we're talking about the Sligo Support Centre in this case.
Yeah, that's at Ross's Point on Christmas Day. They're doing a Christmas Day splash to raise funds for the Sligo Cancer Support Centre. And they're actually looking not for swimmers, so you don't have to get in the water, but for stewards to help with the organising and the cheering on. Because
a huge amount of work goes into all of these events.
Exactly.
You know? So volunteers and their families and friends presumably would get involved as well when they hear.
Absolutely, yeah. And the thing with volunteering too is that you often think it's something that's free, but there's actually a huge amount of effort that goes into organising it and to making it happen and to training. So there's a whole big structure behind it.
Yeah, you've made me think, actually, it's often people might think, oh, I'm not a swimmer, so I won't take part in that. But there are so many jobs that are required around that activity. In the same way you might think, I don't drive, so I can't do that. But there's always something, isn't there, that you can help out on?
And on our website, so we've got on volunteer.ie, we have the National Volunteering Database. And you can look up volunteering opportunities based on your location, what causes you care about, what skills you have. And there you can find that there's really something for everyone. Everyone has something to give.
You know, I'd be interested to find out, is there a particular spike in terms of age groups of people who volunteer? I mean, are students brilliant and then we kind of fall away and then come back again when children are grown or when our careers are established?
It's interesting. If you look at the population as a whole, it tends to be over 55s who volunteer the most. But that is in general. Then for different types of roles, there's obviously different types of volunteers. So on our database, we have a majority of people under 35. That might be because that's people coming through the internet, using our website, using our search engine. And young people tend to volunteer often because they want to improve their skill set, they want to find a job, they want to have something more to put on their CV, make contacts, learn new skills.
And that's a really good point, because just from going into charities, the likes of the Rape Crisis Centre and places like that, quite often the permanent employees would have gone in there as volunteers.
Oh, definitely.
And you make the right connections, and just from a very practical careers point of view, you know, ended up loving it, understanding it, knowing the business, and it becomes their career.
So we also surveyed 1,000 organisations who involve volunteers, and 30% of them said that they'd hired somebody who started with them as a volunteer.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show what a route it is
So
in
lots
terms
of
of
job
if it's an
potential
area
there.
you want to work in.
Job
That's
potential.
how I started.
And huge
just
benefits.
rewards,
I mean, really, it sounds like a fantastic commitment. It is a big commitment, but one that's so worthwhile.
Absolutely, and you get so much out of it. Yeah. There is one more volunteer opportunity that's a really lovely one that I wanted to... it's with Crosscare in Dublin.
Yeah.
So they're looking for volunteers who... they've got donations for Christmas, and they're looking for volunteers to come in and make them up into hampers to help hundreds of families. But they're also asking for barbers and hairdressers and massage therapists, if they're available all of next week, to come in for a pampering day for families in need. So it's a really lovely one. And there's loads more. There are actually quite a lot of opportunities still out there. So you can find them on our website, volunteer.ie.
Nina, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.